Okay, welcome to Herald Voices, where we speak to our columnists or contributors to the Herald. And this time around, we have new columnists with us. We'd like to welcome Hazel. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
But for those of you first time seeing Hazel, why don't you just tell us a bit about yourself, maybe your family, and also what do you do?
Okay, well, my name is Hazel Ong-Archibald, married to Mr. Archibald. I think if people who follow Catholics at Home podcast, you would have seen him. We have a daughter. My daughter is sweet 16 this year, Mary. And this is her very important year as she's going to do her IGCSE exam. Yeah, so there's a little bit of anxiety, a little bit of kanchongness for a parent. So we hope that you can pray for us, pray for Mary especially, and also the parents. I think sometimes parents more kanchong than the child. Yeah, I'm actually from Ipoh, but now I live in the Klang Valley since 1996. Used to be a reporter with a local newspaper. But that was for only 7.5 years of my career. Then I ventured into the capital markets industry, doing investments for my clients. But very recently, that was about 24 years ago. That was about 24 years ago. And 2 years back, I decided to upskill. And now I'm a licensed financial planner. So that's a little bit about me.
So before we go into the practical tips, you talked about trusting in God, right, with finances. Could you share? Do you have any experience about an incident where God had provided in a challenging time for you?
Yes, I have too many. If I share everyone now, we won't have base this interview. So I will just start from the very beginning. I am a child of the 1980s recession. So that was the very first time I experienced how God is truly my provider. Not because the Bible say he is Jehovah Jireh, my provider. No, that was the very first time I really experienced his providence. Yeah. So how it happened was my family, we were really affected. I know some people, they go through a lot of recession. There are many from the 80s, then the 90s, the year 2000. There will always be a crisis that is like a constant. So I was in the 1980s recession and my family was affected. It came to a point where we lost our house, we lost our car. Some days we don't know whether we have food to eat. Yeah. But God came through his people. Who are these people? Who are these God's people? They were my parents' marriage encounter friends. And because my parents were choice presenters, they were the choice graduates, they came. They came and they supported us financially, and they also brought food supplies to our family. So we managed to pull through. And that time I was about to take my SPM, and I decided that whatever the result is, I will come out and work to support my family. And to cut a long story short, I can see God's hand. You know, he will bring in the right job for me without much education because only SPM at the time. But I had good job opportunities, good bosses, and I managed to study at night and work and get my tertiary education, through that way lah. Yeah, and it's all God lah. At 17 years old, what kind of wisdom would a teenager have, right? So it's like I can feel God guiding and prompting me to take certain actions. And that's why I ended up in the financial planning industry because I know how important financial stability. And even when we are struck down, there are ways to overcome it. And faith is actually very important.
Okay, so let's move to your article. I think you gave about 8 or 9 practical advice for us. We won't go through all because we want people to read the paper. So let's
Yes,
just
get the copy.
yeah. So let's just pick a couple. The ones I chose was like you talked about setting God-aligned goals. What do you mean by God-aligned goals?
Okay, well, God-aligned goals are a bit, well, I would say very different from what the world out there would ask you to set. Maybe I just contrast it a bit. Like the world, some goals would be, get your big house or your big car. It's all about a lot of consumerism, materialism, and the mark of making it is, you acquire all those things. Yeah. But God aligned goals to me would be goals that would be like what I shared earlier, be able to help out a family in need. That is actually being the hand of God doing the providence part, because God won't come down from heaven and say, hey, come, I help you, right? He works through his people. So like, I would say to families, maybe if you're well off, you can have a goal like, hey, this year maybe I can help feed X amount of families near my Taman, my BEC. If you read the article, I actually shared that our BEC did that when it was in the height of the COVID, and there was a neighboring neighborhood that was actually poor. So we identified the families, and although we were not rich ourselves, but we pool the money together and we help them. Yeah, goods as well as money as well. So that is one of the goals, God-aligned goals. If I would say, teaching our family the verses from the Bible that God talks about money. There are actually 2,500 verses, and God has verses on stewardship, like, everything belongs to Him. We are just mere stewards. We are just entrusted to help manage his money so that it gets to the right people, like the first example I said. And other goals would be being contented with what we have been blessed with. A lot of times, right, the world said, hey, we don't have enough. Then we want to always be chasing for the next big thing. But a goal to be contented and grateful for what we have is actually a good goal, which is aligned to what God wants us to be grateful and to be good stewards. So maybe when we look back at our goal, when we set, are we good stewards? How are we taking care of the resources that God has given us? And how can we help people? Yeah, it may not be always about money. It's about time. Because time is actually money, right? Especially for people like me, I don't have a fixed gaji. I don't have a fixed salary. So my time is my money. So if I spare the time to serve, or I spare the time to help, that could be your goal. Like you set aside X number of hours to serve in your taman ke. It doesn't have to be in a Catholic environment, because we belong to our neighborhood, our world, right? And that's how we are supposed to reach out and be the face and hands and feet of our beloved Trinity lah. That's sharing. I hope it helps you relate. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, what I'm hearing is to have an attitude of gratitude, and also to look outwardly, not so much inwardly to ourselves. I think that would be aligned with God's desire for us to look outwardly. Another thing you talked about was debt, like reducing debt. Or, some debts, of course, we can't really avoid. It's too big, like house loans and stuff like that. Those, I guess, who is some kind of debt at the moment, what would their advice be? Or if they're thinking like how can they start to restructure their financial goals or plans to eliminate the debt?
Okay, so I think the first step would be, first you have to know where you are, right? And a lot of people promote health. We go for we go for health check yearly. Hopefully, most people, especially people around my age group, 5 series, we have been promoted to take health checks. But the financial health check is equally important. Actually, now is very important because of the rising costs. Inflation is rising and everything. So once you take a financial health check, you will actually know the real number, your number. Like what you asked me just now, it could be a very general thing. How am I going to reduce your debt? So every individual or family, their debt level is different. So after you have done your financial health check, you will know how bad the situation is. So for some people, their first goal could be to reduce debt. But many families I met, their first goal is actually to set aside the emergency fund. But since you asked me about debt, so once you know how much debt you are in, especially those with high interest rate, those debts like credit card debt, yeah, and personal loan, and then it goes down from high to low. So in my article, I address that you address the loan or personal loan or credit card loan with the highest interest rate, and then you try to eliminate or reduce that as fast as you can, the top one, so that you pay less interest. That is a method that we call the avalanche. Like in the cold country, the avalanche, that is the method that I just described. But some people, they look at the big number, right? They are paralyzed, and then they go into analysis, but they cannot do it. So if you are that kind of person, the better way would be to do the snowball instead of avalanche, which is very scary and big, right? Some people see, they cannot take it. They prefer to do the small numbers first. So that way, you look at all your debts and you look at the one with the least balance, the smallest balance. So say, for example, it's only 50 ringgit. Example, if only our debt is 50 ringgit. So you will pay that debt first, pay off. So you feel like, wow, achievement. And hopefully that sense of achievement that you have eliminated the debt will give you the momentum and the satisfaction to go for the next bigger amount, which is maybe 100 ringgit. So you pay the most to eliminate debt first, and the rest of the debt, you just do the minimum.
Okay, so we are considered at the start of the year. For someone who's like want to take this seriously, how should they start to plan their financial journey? I know you gave a lot of ideas in the article, but you said if you can't implement all at once, just take your time. So what would be the first few steps for us?
As I said, the first step is find out where you are. Do a financial health check. You can do it online. There are many resources. But if you're Catholic, then I would suggest or recommend there is this let me get my book, Navigating Your Finances God's Way. This is one of the programs that I joined in 2019, just before COVID hit us. This is the one that will tell you all the 2,500 verses of what God has said in relation to money and possession. So actually, God knows that we will get into trouble, with money. He knows we need a lot of help. So this program, I like it because it compounds everything in a logical manner, and it walks you through that. God talks about, it talks about debt. God talks about not taking loans. God talks about, generosity, contentment. And of course, the most key thing is God talks about stewardship, because everything belongs to Him. We are just His money manager in this earth that while we are alive and serving Him. So it's a very good start for Catholics. Yeah. And inside, you can do your health check also, your financial health check, because the elements of a financial health check is actually your cash flow and your asset and liability. So this book has got the elements of that, and you have a group that can journey with you for 9 months. So it's a small group study.
All right, that's great. So thank you, Hazel. I think we've talked a bit about an introduction to not just you and your articles, your column to come, but also to finances, because it's a good time to get this under control at the start of the year and see through it. Can you show us again the article that you have in the Herald?
Ta-da!
Ta-da! There it is. Wonderful. Wow. That's a lot.
Yeah,
That's
my
a lot of
first.
information there.
Yes, I didn't know it looks like such a big article after it has been printed out. And wow, it's almost like half of the more than half of the Herald page.
Yeah. That's great. So, thank you for joining us, and to the viewers, once again, don't forget to get a copy of the Herald, and we look forward to more of Hazel's articles for us. I personally, of course, I read it, and I found it very interesting, and yeah, it's really good for us. Thank you, Hazel.
Most welcome. Have a blessed day.